What we're going to do is take a whirlwind look at how you can win contracts and business through tendering and its relationship to your overall marketing and sales strategy. Knowing how to tender effectively is not only important for main contractors who are tendering directly to clients, but also subcontractors, second-tier suppliers. As a subcontractor, if you know what's going on out there, you can make contact with the first-tier suppliers. Also, if you understand the hoops that they have to jump through, then what you can do is provide them information that makes it easy for them to include in any responses. As Neil's just said, I'd encourage you to use the chat button as we go, raise any questions and queries, and Catherine, my colleague at Smart Marketing, will pick those up, and as we go through, we'll have a go at answering them or discussing them. And then we'll make sure there's a few minutes at the end as well to pick anything up. Quick introduction, just make sure that's working. Yeah, at Smart Support, we're a group of independent advisors. We work with local businesses to help them grow and achieve a better work-life balance. I also work with a number of different clients, supporting them with their tendering challenges. So what are those challenges? Whilst I go through the next few slides, using the chat line, just take the opportunity to share some of your experiences, what some of your challenges are in finding and engaging with tendering opportunities, and then indeed the winning of that business. Do it in open chat or direct to Catherine, and we'll pick these up as we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to explore the tendering markets that we operate in and make sure that the tenders fit within your overall growth ambitions. Look at how you align and get yourself ready to tender, including operational practices and compliance. The various ways to go and find the opportunities and get an understanding of the tendering process. And most importantly, make sure it is part of your overall sales strategy. But a warning, if you go into this half-heartedly, you're going to get the wrong opportunities coming in, and they'll come and go without you even knowing about them. You'll lose tenders that you should have won, and you'll waste time and resources and become demotivated. You'll miss your targets, and your competitors will become stronger around you. However, get it right, and with the right commitment and done well, you'll see more tender opportunities, improve tender processes, and be able to react to those opportunities, which in turn will deliver increased sales, leading to a higher income and a more sustainable business. And most importantly, a less stressful working life for you. So Catherine, have you got any feedback from anybody? Has anybody got any challenges?
I haven't put anything up on the chat room, but one I know that always comes up is finding out how to speak to the right people within public authorities. How do people address that?
Absolutely, that's a good point. And we will cover it in a little bit as we go, but it is really important to make the tendering process part of your overall marketing and sales strategy. So trying to engage with local authorities a long time before an actual opportunity comes out is just essential. Once a tender does appear on the airwaves on a portal, you've got little or no chance of engaging with them outside the formality of the Q&A on the portal. So it's about making time to try and access the procurement officers and the deliverers within local authorities. Much easier said than done, I know, but essential to do that.
Yeah, Carl has just raised, it's difficult to know how to move away from the portals into relationship building.
Yes, he's absolutely right. Yeah, and there's no magic wand, there's no clever trick to this. It is about deciding, you'll see in a second, we're going to ask ourselves some important questions. And when you answer those questions for yourself, I think it's going to give you a clearer steer of who your targets are, who you would like to speak to. And when you do get the opportunity to do so, what is the conversation that you want to have? But we'll come back to that in a second. So Particular challenges sit around understanding the tendering process and what makes a client tick, such as budget, timescales, services, and any other drivers a client wants. Aligning your business with those potential clients and making sure you have their basic requirements. And also, how on earth do you make your offer stand out from the rest? What are your unique selling points or your USPs? And then finding the opportunities that are right for you and indeed are winnable. And having a robust tendering process that delivers the basics and then gives you time to spend answering those responses that are going to make you stand out from the rest. And then, of course, there's resources from within your team or without. With all of that said, you do need to align yourself to the market. Firstly, you must set yourself some smart tendering goals. What is right and realistic for your business? And be sure that the right market to grow your business. And be clear on what you offer and how you compare with your competitors. What makes an opportunity right for you, considering things such as size and scope, location, and duration. And also getting to know what's important to the buyer. Is it a safe pair of hands? Is it the best possible service, but within a restricted budget? Also, for service contracts, what is the existing relationship like now? This can shape a client's thinking. If they're tendering because they have to, or are they tendering because they want to? That could be a big differentiator to whether you can decide to pursue an opportunity or not. And then you need to develop your skills that enable you to answer the questions answered, whilst ensuring that you also get your USPs into any of your responses. So before you enter the world of tendering, you must ask yourself 3 crucial questions. The first one is, what do you offer and how do you compare? Be clear on what it is you do and how you differentiate yourself from your competition, such as quality, price, service levels, and indeed your social credentials. And we'll touch on that in a moment. The next question, what is the DNA of the right opportunity for you? What is the makeup of the perfect contract? Consider the size, duration, location, the type of service and the scope of works. What are the payment terms? In fact, in many instances, getting paid is a challenge. And also considering the type of client that would best fit you. And the third question, in your market, what is important to these clients? Is it compliance, safe pair of hands? Is it price? Or is it the comfort of a trouble-free service? Or a strong social or environmental focus? In the current climate, construction is moving more towards off-site prefabrication, and there's obviously a massive focus on COVID-safe operations. Also, clients are considering sustainability on the projects with a strong focus on social value. So here's a question for everybody. Who has heard of the Social Value Act? We'll come back to that in a second. I know Carl has, because I pushed him towards it. We'll come back to that in a second, but the Social Value Act and sustainability is just enormous. A subject to tackle when you're certainly if you're dealing with public sector to contracts. Okay, so these 3 questions are really, really important, and they all lead up to the key question: how do you meet your client's needs in a way that differentiates you from your competition? What you're doing is effectively coming up with your USPs for your business, which is absolutely critical when responding to tenders. If you don't tell the buyer how good you are, how will they know? And if they don't know, they can't score you in a tendering environment. I recommend you take this away and think about how you would answer this for your business. Any questions, Catherine?
No, nothing's come up on the chat so far. It looks like you're answering your questions as you go at the moment, Tim.
Okay, everyone's silent. Everyone's hiding behind the screen, are they? Okay. So let's have a look at getting ready to tender. Before you tender, you need to have a number of cornerstones in place when tendering public and indeed private sector contracts. You need to implement best practice, have a structure to your organisation, staff job descriptions, key points of contact for a client, and also have some methods of measuring your business performance, company KPIs. What do I mean by that? If you've been trading for 10 years and you retained your very first client, that is a really useful and interesting stat about your business and will show that you have the ability to work with a client. If you have successfully saved a client money, if you finish projects on time at a reduced price to the quality required, or you've done some works on a landmark building, a historical building or whatever, these are all really key bits of information about your business, which you may not necessarily get asked specifically in a tender question, but a great opportunity to leverage some of this value in. Have some case studies pre-written and include basic information and key achievements. A case study doesn't have to be more than a page worth of content. Just put the details of who the client was, the scope of the project, start and finish, value, and then just list some of the key achievements. It is unlikely that that document in itself is ever going to be able to be used in a tender because clients ask specific questions. But what you've done is started building up a library of information about your business that you're going to be able to call upon in the height of and the pressurized environment of a tender with deadlines. Document management. You also need to have a structured filing system in place and include things as your profile and your background, financial information. Most tenders at some point will ask for the last 2 years' trading accounts. So have them in your library, labelled up what they are, PDF'd, and really easy to grab to drop into a portal. Similarly, insurances, and then the case studies and good news stories, and then policies and procedures. And make sure you have all of this information easily accessible. And then, when you are tendering, you're going to be able to concentrate on answering the specific quality questions that are going to allow you to stand out from the rest. Okay. So how do we go and find opportunities? Well, one of the ways is to register on the right tendering portals for you. There's many out there for both public and private sector opportunities. In this area, the Kent Business Portal is used by local authorities, albeit that you go in there and it directs you to pro contracts. On a larger basis, you've got Tenders Electronic Daily, TED, and the government portal Contracts Finder. Every single government contract they are procuring over £10,000 is on that portal, which is great. It also is a challenge because every single one is on there and you've got to wade through many before you get to the one that you're looking for. And if it was important before, I think it's going to be even more important going forward to get to understand the portals. There was an announcement yesterday, and I've got it on my board here. The government announced yesterday £3 billion fund to upgrade the nation's buildings, and that's homes, schools, and hospitals. Now, 2 months ago, Boris stood up and said there was the New Deal, a £5 billion injection of money. I suspect this is the same money, just being repackaged and sold out there. But the fact is, whether it is 3 billion or 5 billion or both, being government contracts, these will find their way through tendering portals. So set up your profile to see the opportunities are right for you and include the location, the contract size and duration, and then monitor your alerts. The other thing is to look up local authority contract registers because they have a responsibility to publish who they procure works through. And on those registers, it will detail the nature of the service, the estimated value, the existing suppliers, and an estimated completion date. These might not necessarily be that accurate or up to date, but they just help you to paint a picture of what's going on in your environment. And certainly if there's something you're interested in that might be coming up in the next 18 months or so, now's the time to approach that local authority and try and have a conversation with the procurement officer about how they are seeing that tendering process happening, whether there's been extensions of contract and so on and so forth. But it's important to have that conversation outside of the formal tendering process. And while some of these opportunities might not be directly relevant to you, you may be a subcontractor working to a main contractor, just being in the know, just seeing this stuff that's going out there can just allow you to align yourself with your partners and help them in the tendering. The other thing is to consider alliances. Find other businesses with complementary skills, which could actually make your tendering offers stronger. Bit of a strange thought, because very often you might think these are your competition. And of course they may well be in certain environments, but just consider alliances. The other thing is networking. Well, that's all turned on its head at this moment in time. Normally networking is all meeting in a room, sipping teas and coffees, shaking hands, guest speakers and so on. And of course that's all on its head, and it's networking like this. So I would strongly recommend, if you haven't already, have a look through the list of people who are here today at this session and make contact with them. It just gives you the opportunity to have a conversation with them outside of this environment. It earns you the right to do that. And if there's any more sessions you can go to today, if only to see who's at them and try and say hello and make contact, then do that. And then there's bold calling. This is where you actually go out and meet potential clients or connections. And this might be consultants, main contractors, buyers or procurement officers, and try and get an understanding of their objectives and targets. Don't just think about the here and now and a particular project you want now. Just try and get to know them and understand their drivers. So get out there, wherever there is, and be active. Any questions?
There are a couple actually, Tim. So Carl has asked how you manage all of this with a very small team and budget. Be interesting to see how this scales down for small business.
Yeah, absolutely. There is no magic trick to this. As a business owner, you have got to put time and energy to your marketing and sales. What you've got to do is be smart and put that energy, targeted energy into it. We can all be busy fools out there wasting time. But the fact is, if you want to grow your business, you are going to have to win new contracts. Many of those will be organically grown from your existing networks. But if you have decided that tendering is a way of winning new business, and I think it's becoming more and more prevalent both in the public and private sector, then you've got to put some time to it. But I think it is go back, ask yourself those 3 questions. I think in conjunction with that, when you establish what your ideal clients are, start putting a list together of who they are. Actually start naming names. Individual businesses, organizations, sectors that you want to target. And then you've almost on a lead by lead basis decide the best way to engage with them. And also consider leads as well as clients. Everybody will have a network of people out there that they can engage with and make contact with, and it just might lead something onto something onto something.
The other question that came through from Stuart is, again, on the Social Value Act, which you might be touching on a bit later. It's a bit of a challenge in tendering, and any extra advice would be really helpful, particularly around measuring value in design, if you can have a look at that sometime. Yeah,
well, let's do social value now. Did anyone put their hand up and announce they knew what Social Value Act was?
Carl did.
Of course, yes, absolutely, because I've been banging on about it for months. The starting point is all government contracts, there is a mandate down that 10% of the scoring of any government contract has to be allocated to sustainability. Sustainability covers three headings: social, environmental, and economic, which is people, planets, and profit. Hanging off that is the Social Value Act, written I think in around about 2016, might be a little bit earlier than that, 2014. It's quite a short document, and there's a really good memoir, so go out on Google and have a look at it. But this is about what you can do to bring added value to a contract and a client. So it is how you can support the community. Are you a local employer? Do you buy from local providers? What added value can you add to a project beyond actually delivering the core activities? What I find with most businesses I work with is that they do a shed load of it, they just don't realise that it sits under the banner of social value. And actually, I helped Carl set up some homework at the beginning of this year for BJF Group to do just that. They do rakes of good social value activity and sustainability initiatives, but they just don't capture it into one place. And it's really, really important to do that. And it could range from employing part-time, job sharing, to allow people, perhaps single parents, to be able to balance the work-life balance of looking after children and still working. And if they're working, then they're paying taxes. If they're paying taxes, then it generates, prosperity to everyone involved. So if you haven't, homework, apart from those three questions I talked about earlier, go and have a look at the Social Value Act. Okay, I'm going to move on, mindful of time. So if you do want to go through the tendering process, the first thing to do is there's an expression of interest, the EOI. This is effectively the initial advert. By expressing your interest, you can get in, have a look at the details and understand the requirements before you make too much commitment. Really, really important at this stage to introduce a bid, no bid process. Nothing complicated, it's just bring together the thoughts about what is the bid asking for? Are you compliant? Are there any showstoppers like insurance values or turnover restrictions that are going to limit your ability to win it? If there are, stop there. If there aren't, then it's about looking at what they're asking for. How strong is your position to win it? What's the incumbent's position like? And if you do still go through that and decide that you are going to tender it, then it's about tackling the response. For public sector opportunities, they use an SQ, a selection questionnaire, previously known as the PQQ. And it's split into three sections. Section 1 and 2 deal with basic company information and exclusions. And this is where all the hard work of getting a library together mean that you should just be able to sail through this, which allows you to focus on section 3, which covers the specific quality and selection questions. And we'll go through how you can maximize your chances in a few moments. But clients will often receive dozens and dozens of returns. The more compliant you are in section 1 and 2, the easier it is for them. And whilst private sector doesn't have to follow the same rules specifically, they still need to be sure they're selecting a contractor who's capable of delivering and often adopt the SQ format for overall compliance. And I've been in that position of having to try and down select from 34 down to 5, and non-compliant responses made it really easy for me to reject them. But if you get through all this, you're into contract negotiation and implementation. So let's have a look on actually answering the specific quality questions. First of all, make sure you give time to the responses. These are the questions that will differentiate you from the rest. Have a look at the scoring matrix if it exists. That will give you an indication of where best to put your time and energies. Don't refer to other areas of your responses. On larger opportunities, clients will obviously often split them down and have different people reading different parts of the response. So make sure each response stands alone and answers the question. And similarly, with the use of acronyms, spell it out. Don't assume the reader knows what you're talking about. Work to the word and character count. This can often be an indication of the magnitude of the response that they're expecting. Break down your answer. Answer the whole question and only worry about shrinking it back down to the word or character count when you've finished. And then make sure you answer the whole question. Often a single question will have multiple parts to it. So it might be, how will you deliver A whilst maintaining B and ensuring C? There are 3 parts to that question. Split them down. I'll usually take the question, stick them on a Word document, and then start building up my response from there, away from the challenges of operating directly on a portal. And also, if you've got some practical experience that you can demonstrate you've met these particular challenges before, that always goes down well. Use bold font and underline the key phrases. Use numbers, not words, if you're detailing figures. If you consider the person reading it, imagine them being a school teacher marking homework. What you're trying to do is make your response as easily read and easy to score as possible. And they will be chonking through page after page of many different responses. And remember, if you don't tell the buyer how good you are, how will they know? And if they don't know, how on earth can they score you? Okay, well, we're nearly there. So, we've, in record quick time, explored the markets. We've aligned with the buyers. We've got you ready to tender. We've gone out and found those opportunities and developed the tendering process. But what you've got to consider is, can you do this alone? If you don't have the expertise, processes, resources, just get some help. So I'm going to come off screen now, so that we can see everybody. And you're all hiding behind the cameras. Has anyone got any questions or queries from that?
Thank you very much, Tim. I've got to say, you've got some great takeaways there. I think from our point of view, or from my point of view, it's about probably working smarter, not harder. And there's some really, really good takeaways there for everyone. So thank you very much indeed for your time. Yeah, just like to embrace anybody else, any questions from anyone from the field? And in terms of getting hold of you, Tim, what's your best contact details? I don't know if Catherine can put that into the chat.
If I put that back up, there you go. Email address there, or our website, of course.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Tim.
Except I've just noticed it should be Tim Shepherd at Smart Support.
I was going to say, that doesn't look right, Tim.
Oh, there you go.
Email address up wrong.
Luckily you spotted that, so Tim Shepherd.
Fantastic. Yeah. Nothing like being professional there, is it? Eh?
No, but you got there in the end, so that's good.